Tuesday, everybody. Oh, got an echo.
Yep, hold on.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Oh, still got an echo. Why is that?
Really?
Testing.
Yep, clear now.
Oh, it's gone. It's gone. Yay.
Okay.
Okay, happy Tuesday, everybody. You're watching Splash Pages, the comic book club, and we just lost them. With us, as always, Velvet Joker. How's it going, bud?
It's going great. How's everyone doing tonight?
Doing great.
Ready for a fun interview with Mr. Doug Rice, Animator Supreme?
Oh, yeah. Mr. Drew Malo. How's it going, bud?
Yes, excellent. We're going to take over the world. I mean, hi, I'm Drew. We're going to be interviewing Doug Rice. He's done things. You probably know his work, but now you're going to know him better. Okay.
And even better, we have him in video
There he
now.
is.
Hey, Doug, how's it going?
Fine.
Oh my God. It worked!
Eureka!
All praise Charles D. Mosant, who does your tech support. Awesome dude.
Nice.
Dependable.
Speaking of tech support, I'm going to let you guys grab it because I have a minor issue over here I need to fix. So I'm going to let you, Drew or Velvet, if you want to kick it off.
Wait, are you just going to leave? You're just going to leave us here?
I'm muting myself for a second because
This is a horrible first impression for Mr. Rice here, okay? We're supposed to be professionals.
Drew?
Yes, sir.
You should call your last name Draw, so you're Drew Draw.
You know what? That's it. I'm going to the office tomorrow. Let's do it.
Well, welcome, Doug. Welcome. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. And now that we see you visually, you're such a debonair and handsome man.
I know. Hey. Hey, Velvet, does Harley know that you're coming on this strong? Like, come on, man.
Hey,
All
listen, this man is a legend, and I'm going to find out what makes this man tick tonight.
Listen, I understand. I was bummed when I thought I couldn't do the interview last week, but we're just going to reschedule. I was like, yes, second chance, got to get better. But so, before we get to the interview, let's just talk about a few things going on in the world, whatnot. Leo, can you hear me still?
I can hear you. Yeah. I just had to stop a couple items that were streaming, but we are good.
All right. So I hate. I don't know why now I'm the bearer of sad news, but I feel like we have to bring up certain things. So since we've last saw each other, shit has happened in the world, and I feel we have to have some memoriam. One, recently we lost Louis Anderson, who died recently. He's 68, passed away from complications from blood cancer. Great comedian. Yes. Wonderful person. It's sad because I see all people posting things, and the thing I remember him the most from is Coming to America. And my joke was he moved up from making fries. So go Louis. Had to say that. And then other sad one, which I have to say hit me a little harder than Louis Anderson, was that the artist formerly known as Meatloaf passed away. That was very sad. Passed away 74. I believe it was due to complications due to COVID. I'm not 100% sure on that. But such a loss. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there was definitely some blasting of Bat Out of Hell that Friday, and I have also no problem admitting that there was definitely some not caring if anyone was looking, although I was alone in my apartment drum soloing because goddamn that song.
But he can't do mask.
Shut up. You had to go there. Thank you, Velvet. So I have to give both of those guys credit. Another two bite the dust, as they would say. But fortunately, their work lives on. I have at least at one point said his name was Robert Paulson, just because being a fan of Fight Club, you have to. So that. Something big was happening. Oh, right. And on a side note, finally saw Hawkeye, guys.
If I may add with the memorial list,
Yes,
a
sir.
very close friend
Please.
of mine, Chris Akuleos,
The artist.
the artist. Have you ever watched Heavy Metal the movie?
Yes.
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 Remember the poster with that most beautiful woman that was your straight test?
Mhm.
Yeah.
He passed.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, he had a stroke, and 3 days later, he was not able to make it. And he had done almost all of the Target Doctor Who covers. And fortunately, we worked together, and he found a good publisher. And his last collected work is a Doctor Who book of all of his book covers together. But if you look at Chris Akuleo, you know, he is survived by his children, his grandchildren, and his amazing, beautiful wife, Tasha Akuleos.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Charles.
You know, I hate to say it, death comes in threes, so there's the complete set.
So Doug's safe.
Yeah, well, we have the very live Doug Rice right here, right now.
There you go.
Live and in person.
Still kicking.
Professor Doug Rice. Excuse me, Professor.
All right, that's true.
So Chris Akuleos, Heavy Metal, Radio Times. He also did Conan the Barbarian, and Doctor Who, Star Trek. Heavy Metal, Blade Runner.
Nice.
He did a proposed poster for Blade Runner. He also did the controversial cover for Whitesnake's 1979 album Love Hunter.
Wow. That's how you know you made it big, if you've got controversy.
He was based in England, wasn't
Yes, he was
he? He was based in England. That's why he might not be as well known over here.
His art is, and what was
His
cool,
art is.
and what was cool was he was in Cyprus, born in 1947, and immigrated to England. And one of the stories I remember it was amazing. He was at a convention, and I was next to him. And I was helping to sell stuff. He couldn't believe it that I was helping to sell stuff. And he invited me over to his home. And at the end of the con, I went over there. He offered a sleepover. And, you know, I got to meet his wife, or back then fiance. And one of the stories that he told me about was being a child playing in these large craters as a kid. And it turned out those craters were the remnants of World War II, covered in flowers and soot and amazing stuff. That was, you know, some weird stories.
Great history.
Yeah.
Gotta love those little stories, my dude.
His art is just amazing.
Oh yeah. Oh wow, that is really great.
Yeah, here's
I love that attention to detail.
The Heavy Metal.
Now, Charles, how young a man was this gentleman?
He was, I believe, in the 70s, 74.
Okay.
It's not horrible.
But I'm going to back down because it's now Doug. Woo!
Absolutely.
Thank you for
Let's
your
get back to
contribution, though,
Mr.
Charles.
Doug.
So,
yeah. Go ahead, Drew.
So no. So what I was going to say is, so everybody, it was very hard in Mr. Rice's career for us to pick something to talk about that obviously wasn't the elf-sized elephant in the room. So we definitely went with a comic that matched, in our opinion, the goofy Silver Age chap in us all. We chose the 4-part miniseries Plastic Man, and I do have to say, before we do that, being Plastic Man and being that I'm trying to give a shout out to as many friends of mine who do awesome cosplay work. I do know somebody who does a fantastic Plastic Man, and I myself am a fan of the character simply because of Brave and the Bold, which did probably the best version of Plastic Man I've ever seen. And this person whose photo I sent to our group chat, aka Leo, and Mr. Tech Monkey behind the keyboard is, and I'm trying to cue this up, Leo, so like, you know, I can be like, damn, and then Wait, no, it'd be the other way. Right. Sorry. I forget. So I can just be the photo, but you're on Smalls. Yeah, cue it up. You're killing me. I'm losing my momentum in front of Mr. Rice here. This is
I got it up right now.
That's cool.
Okay. So this is a friend of mine. His name is Taylor Brandon. He goes by T-Money 1138 on Instagram, and his Plastic Man is second to none. Honestly, hands down. I mean, it's so funny, especially because to this day and age, Plastic Man is still rocking the same costume with just little changes. And to this day, that's pretty impressive because pretty much any character you think of has had modified and whatnot. It's very rare you see somebody still rocking the same duds that they were back in the heyday. But he's just got that Silver Age charm. And I felt I had to. So I feel like I should ask our guest to chime in what he thinks, because I'm pretty biased. I think that was pretty great.
That was very, very nice. I've always felt that the time for a live action Plastic Man movie that was filled with CGI, that time has come and gone, sadly, because it's that kind of special effects work has been done to death already. So a movie that wouldn't be too special or special enough for Plastic Man. It would take a very, very powerful director to come up with a version of the character for a CGI film that would really work.
Well, you know what DC is doing right now for TV, you know, with James Gunn and work like Peacemaker. Peacemaker has just the right amount of goofiness, and you know, it doesn't really have that much special effects, but you know, I could see a Plastic Man series on HBO. I think that would be incredible.
Could you see Plastic Man being a guest or make an appearance in Peacemaker?
I think he.
Well, they certainly drop a lot of obscure characters, so
they do.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, we got Polka Dot Man in Suicide Squad, which was a precursor to Peacemaker.
I mean, listen, for me, it's not as much my question of who would be the perfect Plastic Man. I'm just like, yo, who's Woozy Winks? Because that you got to nail, because you got to have that right amount of occasionally helpful but absolutely psychotic, bumbling sidekick with the
it's Danny DeVito. It's Danny DeVito all day long.
We can't always default to Danny DeVito.
No.
If we want, we can't. Listen, Rich, as much as the world wants to default when we need somebody short and sarcastic to be Danny DeVito, I'm sure there are other people. Okay, it's like we can't just, we want something weird and gothic, we're going to go to Tim Burton. No, just like the special effects Mr. Rice has talked about, played out, move on. Let's get some new blood. Thank you very much.
All right.
I got new blood. I'm gonna top you, Velvet.
Yeah,
Patton Oswalt.
I was just thinking that. Thank you for saying it. Thank you for saying it.
Yeah, because I mean, he's doing Pip to Troll work.
I just saw that. Yeah,
he's
sadly.
What? No way. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you just dropped a spoiler on Drew.
Sorry.
God damn it, Leo. You know what, Leo? Leo, that's 2 minutes in the Scarlet Pit, okay?
Hey, you had a couple weeks to watch the movie.
What?
We know Drew's behind. He just finished Hawkeye.
You know what? Excuse my.
No, I know you have a busy life. I'm not bitching about you. I'm just saying. I'm just stating a fact.
I was sick. Okay, like it's amazing I could pull off Hawkeye, but you know, whatever. This isn't about me. This is about Mr. Rice. We're talking about Plastic Man, all that. But when we're done with the show, Velvet, words. Heated,
all right, words.
Angry, monologue words.
It's on.
It's on. Like it is on like an old game of Donkey Kong. Okay, you have to blow the cartridge, make it work.
I got my barrels ready to throw down at your head.
On the subject of Woozy Winks.
Yes, which is a great character.
Yes.
Well, we had a problem getting the whole thing incorporated into the DC universe, which is real.
Mm-hmm.
And Plastic Man, in order to do it right, you can't it can't be real looking.
Right.
And the editors left it to Phil Folio, who was the main person in the room, who got the assignment, and the artist Hilary Barta, who did a spot on Jack Cole, as far as I'm concerned.
Fantastic.
And myself to work it out as
Right.
to how these characters would fit into the DC universe believably. And fortunately, Hillary had a friend, Kevin Olin, who worked for DC.
Great.
And we decided that we were going to have a situation where Plastic Man was covered with the chemicals, as he was originally as Eel O'Brien, and he was going to get his powers and his vision of the world. His brain was affected by it as well.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And
so that's why the style of the comic changed.
Yeah. And the character of Woozy Winks, the person he meets in this condition, is was a victim of Ronald Reagan's policy of dumping mentally ill people onto the street.
Right.
Yeah.
So Woozy Winks has always seen the world this way.
Right.
So the fact that they see the world the same way bonded them. That's why they're stuck together.
I see.
Absolutely.
So that's absolutely genius, because I was asking that after we read the series, you know, why the change, and you know, we do see him get dumped with the acid, and I was, you know, talking about this with Rich last week, you know, thinking about, you know, was that his own view of the world changing because of the acid?
Exactly.
Well,
that's awesome.
Now, Phil Folio says he saw that idea, and I know I thought of the idea. It must have been at the same time, kind of serendipitous, and we were able to sell it to DC, and they bought it. So long as there were pages in the book that showed the real world too, and that's what Hilary Barta did. You got Kevin Nolan in to do the reality pages,
right,
that are featured in each book. And that's how we worked it out.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's so funny because when you see Plastic Man, like it automatically adds a certain level of goofiness to, you know, and the DC world is fairly serious as it is. I mean, I think one of my favorites was there was a version of him in Frank Miller's All-Star Batman and Robin, and it's during their early stage of and they're talking about, you know, capturing Batman and killing Batman, and he's just over there, you know, turning into a plane or a bomb, where he's just goofing off. And I'm just, it's always so nice because, again, a lot of people would compare him to Elongated Man, which isn't fair because he had similar powers, but you know, Ralph Dibny was always a detective who just happened to also have Mr. Fantastic powers. Eel O'Brien was a former criminal who got a lucky second chance and became a hero because of it, but yet somehow his sense of humor is always been part of the character, and or it's basically an excuse for any artist to just whatever crazy shit you want to throw in there. Why not? He can do it. He's made of rubber.
Now, Drew, a little before your time, but I don't know if you're aware, there used to be a Saturday morning cartoon that had Plastic Man in it.
Yes.
And later on, there was even a Baby Plaz.
Yes,
I missed that one.
Yeah, they referenced that in Brave and the Bold with his wife. You know, a little baby and a schnitzel dog, and then, you know, they have those Baby's Day Out like scenarios where, you know, Plas and Woozy have to save them, and, you know, yet no matter what, you know, Plas is always in the doghouse. So yeah, but it was funny because it's just a little baby who literally wears the shades, has the curl, red. I was just like, I can't deal with this beautiful golden silver age malarkey. But no, but it's I'm just saying, anytime I've ever seen Plastic Man, it's always, I'm like, oh no, just about to get really goofy in the best way. So, reading this I was like, wow,
a lot of
this
people out there
is funny.
can't handle Jack Cole as being the only source of material for Plastic Man, and which is a shame because Jack Cole is a bottomless pit of great ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And that miniseries we did just touched the surface of what possibly we could have done with an ocean of material. If we had a regular series, I'm sure it would have been great. We got 4 issues and we're happy.
Mm-hmm. Was it well received at the time, Doug?
No.
No. And has it
slept
moved on to become a cult classic?
In all the time that since the book has come out, this is the only opportunity I've had to talk about it because you're the only ones who've asked about it.
Wow.
You're welcome.
I would have thought it'd been a cult classic.
We like
being
an
origin story.
You'd be surprised how popular the other versions of Plastic Man are compared to ours.
Interesting.
We like giving a spot to the little guy. So, every comic counts in our mind, even the ones that are meh. I'm like, still good for you, buddy. Wasting the paper.
But this year was certainly not meh. It was, the artwork was amazing. The story was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but we
got while we were working on the second issue, we were approached by a very slick New York art magazine to do a story on how a comic book like ours was being made. And they sent over a photographer and a person to interview us while we were working on that issue of Plastic Man, and it was published. It's probably the most prestigious article on comic books ever published anywhere. And it's on Plastic Man, number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And we have pictures of us working on it, sitting around talking and gesturing and that kind of stuff. That makes good photos. And it's still, probably what I thought that would be the high point of my career at that time. I really thought that was going to be it. At least I was going to be in one prestigious magazine with my friends here working on a book that we all really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think any comic fan ever saw that book, that magazine.
Well, if we ever get, I will say this: if I ever get a chance to meet you at a convention, I will gladly bring a copy and be like, "Hey, do you remember when we were talking about Plastic Man? Here, now you can say you signed a copy too. 2 off your list."
Well, it was this came out in '88, so just 3 years before it. So in 1985's San Diego Comic-Con, you received a Most Promising Newcomer award at the age of 34.
Yes, that was a conspiracy.
Okay.
Dynamo Joe had just come out, and there were a lot of very agitated and excited mecha fans, giant robot fans, and fandom at that point. They were growing concern, and they were in contact through the animation clubs that ran across the country in New York and Dallas and Chicago and LA and San Francisco. And they all got together and said, "Let's vote for Doug Rice," as a block. And that's how I got the award.
Nice.
Hey,
friends banding together.
Yeah, they can't take it back from you. You can be like, that was a mistake. Can we no get backsies.
I only found out about it afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, oh wow. So that's how it worked. But yes, that's how I got the award.
Nice.
So I love Russ Manning. He was one of the influences I had for Dynamo Joe, all the gleaming metal that all the techniques that Russ Manning used for Magnus Robot Fighter were what I used for Dynamo Joe.
Oh, wow. So I do have to ask about the series. Was there any moment that is your particular favorite, or if not favorite, was there one that that you guys either thought, wow, wouldn't it be great, and then you did it and you're like, wow, we actually made that happen, or one that just like killed you, like as you guys were like working on it, you just couldn't stop laughing? Because I imagine, it's
I would say we were laughing all the time. The problem was not that we couldn't come up with jokes, is that we kept coming up with better jokes as we went along, and we couldn't agree on which one was the best. But I was always outvoted because I was the contributor of gag humor when they didn't have a joke, whereas Phil and Hillary together were able to come up with a huge amount of material. And I was there to essentially make sure everything was spelled correctly.
It's important.
So, but in terms of which moment in the 4-part series, I think we may have peaked a little early with the Ooze Brothers, because we all got the giggles working that one. But we enjoyed them all. We really did.
That's good. Yeah. But
now, Doug, if you had to pinpoint 3 characters that you may have, it doesn't matter if you've worked on them or not worked on them. Do you have like 3 favorite characters, as far as superheroes, whether they be DC, Marvel, that maybe you wish you worked on, or even if you have worked on, or what are your top 3?
We're talking about DC or Marvel, or DC alone.
Whatever works for you.
Okay.
All
the above.
I would have to say that my biggest disappointment was that I never got to do Spider-Man.
Okay.
Not even for one panel.
Oh no.
I would love to have done a rendition of Spider-Man, because as a kid, it was like the only reason I wanted to get into art is because I was so enraptured by Steve Ditko's Spider-Man, and I wanted to do something that would be a tribute to that.
Sure.
The characters. In terms of DC, I think I would like to try Batman.
Okay.
Because he went back a long way, even longer as a kid. I remember I went to a Halloween costume thing at my school when I was in like the 3rd grade, and one of the teachers was dressed up in a homemade Batman costume.
Wow.
That was spot on. And when you're talking about, this is in the late 1950s,
right?
And seeing an actual real Batman costume, full cape, everything,
right,
by somebody who really, made the costume work. I was in a daze. I just couldn't believe it would look that good.
Right. Really imprinted on you.
Yeah. And consequently, when I saw the Batman TV series like a decade later, it's like, ugh. What a disappointment.
I've seen better.
Really?
Was that
my 3rd grade teacher could do better?
Was that the Adam West one, or the one with the floppy ears, the black and white one?
I didn't see the black and white one until I was a teenager.
Okay.
I didn't even know it existed until I was a teenager. So the one that I just disappointed with was Adam West.
He's not a fan of the Bat-2C,
Well, I like the car.
Yes.
Yeah, the car was cool.
I have sat in that car. I can believe that.
And I liked Cesar Romero as the Joker.
Yes.
I think he had the laugh down.
He sure did.
Well, you just earned points in Velvet's book, so I'll tell you that.
Absolutely.
So since we kind of talked a lot about Plastic Man, I mean, personally, I can't really say anything more. It was 4-issue series. I enjoyed every issue. So guys,
I did the
anything
first
else
cover layouts.
Okay.
Which, just to help Hillary out, because he could do the 6-page panel, 6 panels per page sequential art beautifully. But when it comes to splash pages, he was having problems coming up with something that was in the Jack Cole vein enough to, and those old Jack Cole issues had great splash pages and terrific covers. So we wanted to do that too. And so I gave him a couple ideas for covers, and he took my layouts and ran with them.
Yeah, and they break the fourth wall in this too, because at one point his sidekick turns to Plaz and goes, "Come on, man, the readers want to see what's next."
That's true. You gotta love those fourth wall comic breaks before they were commonplace.
Oh, if you're gonna do it, Plastic Man's the book to do it with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, Doug, you grew up in Chicago, correct?
Correct.
And so your youth was the 40s, the 50s?
The 50s was my childhood, and my adolescence was in the 60s in the suburbs.
Okay. Now, what was that like growing up in Chicago? Like, I grew up in Queens, New York, so during the 70s and 80s. So, I mean, there's certain things that just happened during that era. So I'm wondering, like, what made Doug become Doug? What were the things that inspired you? What were the stories of old Chicago from when you were a youth?
Well, there was only one story about old Chicago, and that was Al Capone. That was something you could never get away from. Everybody comes to Chicago, expects to see gangsters shooting each other up and down the street. And to a small extent, that is still prevalent. But my family, while I was born in Chicago, my family moved progressively outward to one suburb, to the next suburb, always moving outward. Because that's where the work was that my father was doing. And there were plenty of opportunities for housing and things in new subdivisions. So every house I lived in was more or less new.
And did you like comics from a young age? Because you said by third grade, you obviously Batman imprinted on you. So
yes, well, Batman was something you couldn't get away from, because somebody always had a comic book. My comic books were usually restricted at home, or where I was taken by my family to things like Archie comics and Little Lulu and stuff like that, which was, okay, but it wasn't really where I was at. Because on TV, I would watch The Adventures of Superman and The Lone Ranger and Walt Disney's Zorro.
Okay.
And these are the guys that really got me. And later on, it was the Flash Gordon and Commando Cody and Rocky Jones, Space Ranger. I love those too. So I really was a more raised by TV for my heroes early on, because the comic book stuff was just pretty lame back then. We had Lois Lane comics, we had Jimmy Olsen comics, and boy, those were suspenseful. But once DC started doing things like The Brave and the Bold, bringing back the Flash with Carmen Infantino, and Green Lantern, and The Atom by Gil Kane, things began getting interesting. I even liked Adam Strange, Rocket Pack. He was cool.
Were you drawing as a young boy, Doug?
I drew in the margins of my notebook little doodle figures, which endeared me to my teachers. But this wasn't until the 6th grade, and I came across Spider-Man, that I wanted to do comics as a means to an end. It was my obsession from that point on, because something about the rawness of Steve Ditko's line work made it seem like it was possible for a guy like me, a kid like me, to learn how to draw, because he wasn't so and anatomically correct. He wasn't so proportionally accurate. He was just full of ideas. And so was I. And so he and Jack Kirby were guys I just, looked at, and began moving in that direction. The only time I ever traced anything was when I got a projector that would take a picture and project it up on the wall with a light bulb and a mirror. And I took a piece of paper and taped it to the wall, big piece of paper, and put up a drawing of Captain America from one of the comic books I had, and penciled it out to see how things worked, where the folds went in the cloth and how the hands overlapped things, and just get a general sense of proportion, everything, just to figure out what they were doing. And I was able to stop just in time before the comic book caught fire from the lamp bulb.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
But what I had was this great foundation, and I inked it, so I would work out where everything was. Mm-hmm. And that one art lesson taught me so much that I was hooked. Nice. And doing not just little scribbly drawings, I wanted to do comic book size drawings, like big paper. Mm-hmm. And that was a huge step for me. It'd be a huge step for anybody.
Okay.
Cap and Spidey, early influences.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Very much so.
And his heroes were Kirby and Ditko. I mean, you can't get any bigger than that.
Well, so. They were unknowns back then.
Right. Kirby's style was pretty raw, I would think too, don't you think, Doug?
That's why I chose it.
Okay.
Anybody who's anatomically correct and everything like that, I just knew I wouldn't learn anything because it was way above my head. Mm-hmm. But these guys draw intuitively. They stretched the point. They distorted things for effect, and it worked.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, because they're world builders. I mean, if you want to talk grandiose, I mean, Ditko's Doctor Strange, I mean, still today, you see some of those panels, especially when he first introduced Eternity, the detail and plus the color, it's just amazing. And then Kirby, later on, when he got tired of Marvel, he went to DC, created the fourth world. I mean, he's building gods and everything in his style. And to this day, you're still seeing those characters that he worked on, and they still you still got that Kirby style, so that longevity is definitely, still very prevalent. And without them, a lot of what we consider the cornerstone.
I think he will be an influence for many, many generations to come. Absolutely. He has that power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And his work is that timeless.
Both of them, yeah. Absolutely.
Yep. I think every time I see Dark Side, it just reminds me of Kirby.
Well, it should.
Well, yeah. But so the other thing that we definitely have to talk about, which we might as well, is working on Pinky and the Brain. And the only thing, the one thing I do have to ask, and I've always kind of wondered this, when you're working on something like that, do you, like, when it's just, this new project or whatnot, do you ever have that feeling, like that knowledge that, wow, this could be really big, like this could be considered a staple of people's childhood, this is, people will still be talking about it?
I got my assignment to work on Pinky and the Brain first from the Animaniacs series. The show is Brainania, where they have an island set up, and they're going to go to Washington to get foreign aid so they can build this gigantic dryer that will make all the people's clothes static cling, and so they couldn't move, and he would take over the world.
Right.
This was my first one, and I knew the characters vaguely because the show had just come out and they were only getting a few episodes, but I saw the potential. The show was just too well made. The voice acting was just too spot on. The scripts were great. And the fact that they were trying so hard to recapture the Looney Tunes feel in a new direction, but artistically styled in such a way that it raised the bar of what was being done elsewhere on TV at the time. And I was all on board for that. And the process, I was lucky enough to be in the early part of the process of creation of an episode, which is working on the storyboards, which is technically pre-production. And I got to do a part of the script that they were giving me as a test of them at sea in the ship, and there was one of the characters was seasick, and it's where they got to the island. They made a catapult and flung themselves ashore. I worked all that out, based on the script, because the script is like a Bible, and I get pictures in my head of how this stuff's supposed to look, all in the Warner style.
Right.
I have been raised in Bugs Bunny cartoons enough that, and reruns and reruns and reruns and reruns, that I knew it by heart. It was part of my core, and I was finally able to unleash it, to regurgitate it all onto my drawing board. And I had that comic book discipline of working fast, because there are other great artists at the studio I worked with, but I worked where they could do 2 or 3 backgrounds per day. I did 5 or 6, and that meant the production could go faster, and which was wonderful. Well, the studio, Warner Bros. Loved my stuff. And consequently, we were able to get through an episode faster than the regular studio could.
Nice.
And I loved it all. And the fact that I was able to meet, I went through an entire episode as a test with no changes whatsoever, which apparently had never happened before.
Wow.
And I was surprised too.
Trent,
But my boss was very pleased. He made me the layout department by myself in the corner of the office, a studio rather. He put me in charge of all the layouts.
Wow.
And that's where I stuck. I did storyboards, and all the layouts I did were based on the storyboard panels that I drew. So it was quite a time. I loved working on that, and Pinky and the Brain, that start with them, was resonated with me for a long time. They were great for my career.
How many years did you work on that, Doug?
Well, I worked until the August of 2001 when the shop closed. They had a change in management at Warner Brothers, and so Tom Ruger and everybody was gone. Spielberg had moved over to DreamWorks. And the new people came in, had their own people, and they didn't want to work with us, so they shut things down at Star Toons by simply not paying the bill they owed us. They owed us over $100,000.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't pay us because they didn't need us anymore.
Yeah. Hey, thanks.
So
yeah, that's messed up.
That's how it
was. Yeah, that's equivalent of you think Didward, and then
now, on the upside, on my second year at Star Toons,
great.
My second year at Star Toons, they gave me an Emmy award. I got an Emmy certificate, and so that translated later on to some other work, like being a professor at Columbia College of Arts in Chicago. It acts as like a PhD, so I'm now Professor Rice.
All right.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Congratulations, Professor.
And how long have you been teaching now?
Since the fall of 2013.
All right. Wow. Almost a decade.
Wow. Good
I'm
stuff.
teaching traditional courses in traditional animation.
That man's clearly going to get in there. That's all I'm going to say.
Right. And Doug, traditional animation. Now, is that what they're still doing today, or is that just what was previously done?
Well, it's a twofold thing. Yes, it is still being done today. There has been a recent move in Disney that they are calling out for people to come back to Disney and train doing 2D animation the Disney way.
Yes.
So they are working on reviving the 2D animation studio at Disney Studios. It's going on right now. The other thing is that students who are aware of where the foundations for things involving digital animation came from in the first place, like the process of storyboarding, the fundamentals there that have been translated to digital storyboarding, and the fundamentals of doing background layouts that are now being applied to digital backgrounds. Those students know more than the other students who are only trained in digital.
Mm-hmm.
So consequently, they can converse with their bosses on a much higher level. And the students who've been going out there to California and various places for animation, have kept in contact with me and telling me that the stuff I taught them in class have made all the difference because they just know more than everybody else.
Nice.
And their bosses like that.
There you go.
They've been moved up into jobs involving management and being in charge of departments rather than just rank and file.
Nice.
That's awesome, and that's so incredible to. Sorry, Drew. Just want to say real quick.
No, you're good.
Thinking about, where the animation we grew up with, and where it's been for the last several years, where it's been all computer generated. It's like the old Disney movies. They had that magic feeling, and you knew the hard work that was put into those stories and those creations. I know there's a lot of hard work that goes into 3D animation, but it's essentially like, it's a lot of algorithms, and it's a lot of like, okay, we're going to design a character, and then we're going to say, okay, you're going to walk from here to here, rather than drawing out each panel. It's just it's amazing to hear that Disney is looking into bringing back 2D animation.
Well, they found that their core product, the Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and all the other characters, have gravitas. They are really popular. They really are popular, and they are popular to one generation to the next. They can't seem to put that behind them as much as some people in the Disney organization would like to. But apparently, they felt it a worthy investment, and something that the rest of the world kind of expects from Disney. Yeah. And that's something I appreciate, and I'm glad they're doing it, because keep in mind that what they say about CGI being the #1 watched form of animation, people want CGI movies, all that kind of stuff, is bullshit. Worldwide, the most watched form of animation is anime.
Yeah.
Which mostly 2D or blended.
Can't argue with that.
It's absolutely the #1 form of watch animation. So our big studios here are saying all these things about how wonderful and popular their stuff is, are just shining us.
Yeah.
They just don't want to have two studios in their studio, one CGI, one traditional. Well, Disney's going back to working on developing a traditional animation department. I wish them luck.
It's exciting.
Oh yeah. 100%.
What do you say about Disney as an organization? Somebody there is trying to do the right thing.
That's awesome, and that's one thing we've seen with Disney. Is they've definitely been putting the right people in charge. I mean, just looking at what they're doing with Marvel and Star Wars, it's just amazing. And looking at over the past couple of years, one of the most popular movies to come out, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, was a mixture of it had that 2D look, as opposed to, well, it wasn't fully 3D, but
a brilliant movie.
Yeah. But Drew, I'm sorry I interrupted you a couple times.
No. Whatever you had interrupted me about to say to him was perfect, because we learned more. So interrupt me all you want, my dude. Like, it's all good. Like my brain's just recalculating because I'm still processing everything. So I had two questions. So and we can answer one at a time. The first one was that when working on Pinky and the Brain, because again, I own the series. I've met both Maurice and Rob, and I've even sat in on them at a convention reading a script in their character. I mean, you haven't lived till you've seen them reading Green Eggs and Ham, because that, as Pinky and the Brain, that is just. I think I almost coughed up a kidney, laughing so hard. Did you get to sit in on any of like the recording sessions? Were there any that, and then, yeah,
no.
Doug.
I worked in Chicago, south suburbs, a place called Homewood, where our studio was. It was called Star Tunes was a pickup studio working with Warner Brothers.
Okay.
Back in that particular time period of the early, like 1993, there was the internet was very much, being built, but there was direct communication between Tom Ruger's office out in the West Coast and our office out in the suburbs of Chicago. And Tom Ruger and my boss, John McClanahan, had worked together on many shows going back to Laverne and Shirley in the Army, which is a cartoon.
Okay.
That was made in Australia, of all places. But they worked well together, and Tom Ruger liked the way John worked in particular. But John moved back home to Homewood after a while in Hollywood, and it wasn't until later that Ruger was able to create his position at Kids WB and the connection with the Emblem and Entertainment with Steven Spielberg when he was there at Warner Brothers, and work out what Spielberg wanted to do with creating new animated shows that were actually made for his own kids. His own kids would pick the characters for the show. The first one being the Tiny Toons.
Okay.
And
nice.
By the time they got around to Animaniacs, which featured Vicky and the Brain, the process had been kind of streamlined, and they had more episodes to do for this new show, Animaniacs, and like 26 per season. So, in order to make sure that the Hollywood studio was able to make their deadlines, which are, after all, God, deadlines are critical, they decided to take 6 episodes from the new season and ship them out to Homewood, where John McClanahan's little studio, Star Tunes, for them to work on from start to finish. We would get a script, we would get a storyboard usually, and a mag track of the audio, and we would give them back a finished reel of film ready for airing. We had a complete, start to finish setup in our studio, and they tried it out on the Tiny Toons show and the Tasmania show, and it worked. So by the time we got doing Animaniacs, that's when I came in. And so that was one of the areas they had trouble with, was keeping up backgrounds. Now in the production process, there's pre-production, production, and then there's post-production. So once you've got everything approved and green-lighted by the studio, you go from pre-production to production, which is all studio stuff. And the first department in that studio that gets the work from the pre-production group, usually a mag track with all the voices and sound effects and music. There is the storyboard that was done by the director, and the script come to my department, the layout department. And me and the director of the show at Star Tunes would sit down and we would inhale all this material over a couple of days. We would read it and reread it and make notes and do thumbnail drawings and all kinds of things just to get up and running. Because the work that we do has to be done in a certain length of time and according to budget.
Right.
And the beauty of that is, if you're working with this team that is really, really well put together, and we have the speed needed to do a show before it's due, that means that there's some budget left over. We get to keep it.
Oh, nice.
It's called a bonus. Bonus. It's something that the animation unions worked out that we managed to take advantage of. And because I did the comic book style of drawing, which was fast, because if you don't do fast drawings in comics, you don't eat. That was something that really worked in my favor. So I was able to get the work out fast. which meant that the animators, the key animators, and the background painters were able to take the material and do their work simultaneously to get that stuff out faster. And we were able to get our polished episodes back to Warner Brothers faster than they ever had it before, and looking better than they ever had before.
Right.
And that's why they put my name on that certificate for an Emmy.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Where's that hanging, Doug?
These stories all the time.
I never drew so much in my goddamn life. But I loved working on it. I loved working.
This is another one of those cases where you could just keep talking and I'm just going to be silent, listening, and just thinking, God, I got to do more with my life. All these cool things. And I'm just like, I'm alive. It's 2022. I made it. It's pretty cool.
Well, one thing we'll do real quick. I'm going to take a quick break to play an ad, and also we have our Sophia moment, which we'll play that. A special one. I did a special one this week for you, Velvet. Just wanted to put together, just a little better quality one. So
all right, looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Oh boy.
So obviously, we have a new sponsor. Silk City. You know what? I'm just gonna let the ad play.
Greetings, Spice fans. Silk City Hot Sauce is now sponsoring the Dorkening Podcast Network. Our craft sauces are made in Vermont in small, high-quality batches using locally sourced, farm-grown ingredients. Silk City Hot Sauce comes in a variety of heat strengths and killer flavors like Jezebel, Erotic Fever, Mango Madness, and Good Morning Jonestown. And don't forget our newest creation, Hot Syrup. Make no mistake, Spice fans, this is the queen of sweet heat. There's new and unique flavors coming out all the time. Best of all, right now, listeners of the Dorkening Podcast Network can go to silkcityhotsauce.com and use coupon code DORK. Not only will you get 20% off your order, we'll also throw in a free bottle of hot sauce. That's silkcityhotsauce.com. Coupon code DORK.
Yeah, crazy. 20% off your order and a free bottle of hot sauce. Link is in the show notes up above or down below. And also, we call this our little Sophia moment. It's picture Sicily 1988. So we're going to take a quick travel back to 1988 when this Plastic Man issue did run, all 4 issues. Here we go. Okay, so today's story takes us way back to 1988. And you know what? We're going to put the time cap on, set the time circuits.
Captain, time travel circuit set for 1988.
And today we're going to be looking at everything that happened in 1988 to get us ready for the story. So, gas cost us a whopping 90 cents a gallon. Movie tickets were $4.11. Holy crap. So, we went to the movies that year, obviously, to go see Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Please. Coming to America, Good Morning Vietnam, Big, and you call that a knife. Crocodile Dundee 2 also happened that year. In 1988, the top TV, summer top TV shows, Who's the Boss, Alf, Unsolved Mysteries, Night Court, and Head of the Class, which they just rebooted, in which I watched, and it sucked. Go watch the original. So, Saturday morning cartoons. We were watching Alf as well. We got to see his life on Melmac, also Smurfs, Slimer, and the real Ghostbusters, and a pup named Scooby-Doo, and who could forget the completely mental misadventures of Ed Grimley. Top-selling comics in 1988 was Wolverine #1, Batman Killing Joke, Excalibur #1, and Marvel Comics Presents #1. For us gamers, also in 1988, Nintendo was still a huge thing. Super Mario Bros. 3 was the #1 seller for 1988, followed by Final Fantasy 2. Super Mario Bros. 2 was still selling strong, and Mega Man 2. And that concludes our travels to 1988. I hope you enjoyed this little trip in history.
Before you get up for that final snack, I want you to know I'll be right back. Ha!
I absolutely loved Alpha. I don't know why. Put a little extra time into it. It's still, it still needs some work, but next week I'll do better.
I had every one of those comics, and I no longer have any of those comics. It really made me sad.
I still have my Wolverine, the 4-issue miniseries that came out.
I just want to point out that the entire time I could not hear a word of that. It just kept freezing. So I saw about 10 scenes of it, and I just said, probably Doug Rice could probably animate this a little better right now. And I was just just shabamps done. Send it to Warner Brothers.
Now, Doug,
with a little bit of hot sauce on it.
More of a delve into your career. What was your first comic or animated actual job that you received? Do you recall?
I have. I did a job. My first paying gig was for a New York publisher who had worked with Steve Ditko on some adult publications called Eric Stanton.
Okay.
Oh man.
And I did a couple kinky little things for them, and it was actually he was the first editor I worked with who actually gave me some pointers when I desperately needed them. But yeah, that's as much as I'm going to say about that.
Okay.
Enough said.
And now flash forward to more recently. What have you animated anything in more recent years? Or worked on storyboards or comic books?
Let's see. I did a 30-second promotional thing for Star Tunes while I was there toward the end, featuring a giant robot character that I created for them. And ran 30 seconds, but I did the whole thing in terms of concept and script and storyboard and designs and key animation and finished animation and coloring, all in 14 days.
Oh, wow.
Solo.
Still got it.
Yeah, and that is I have that on my website, but it's called Avatar. And it was kind of a thing for a commercial for an antivirus commercial featuring a giant robot called Avatar. This is before the other guy who did Titanic and the Avatar movie. It's before
James Cameron.
James Cameron. About a month before he announced his thing, I had already put mine in production. So there you go. For other things, much more recently, yes, I have been involved with a producer from Wisconsin who's a architect who builds upscale home designs and builds upscale homes for a living and does it very well. And as a sidelight, as a hobby, he's been doing a feature-length animated film. The current title is Flabbergasted. He's been working on it since 2013 with me. I had applied for his job via the phone and sent him some emailed him some samples, and he hired me right away. And I work at his studio in Wisconsin, a place called the Richfield, which has essentially a country manor out in rolling hills, beautiful country. And he has a country manor there with a west wing, which is devoted to his business, the architectural stuff. And underneath the west wing is the first basement, which has been turned into an animation studio. And at the north end and the south end, he has 2 luxurious apartments where he hires animators to come in and spend the summer doing his animation with him supervising.
That's cool.
And he's an artist as well as an architect. Yeah, he's a brilliant idea. He sees the world through Walt Disney's eyes, and he's good at what he does. He's a good guy too. And so I got to spend my first summer there in 2013 doing animation work for him, doing storyboarding and background layouts, and because they were doing a full animatic of the entire movie as a way to sell it. It's like instead of giving somebody an idea and selling that and have them change everything, he was giving him what he wanted, like to describe as a fait accompli, where they would have to buy his story, his ideas, in order to get the project made. And he wanted to make sure that they're good enough by hiring professionals from Disney and Don Bluth and anybody else who's out of work to come over to his studio and work for those summers. And I met a lot of great animators there, Disney and various other studios, even Nelvana. And it was great working with professionals who all had a history behind them, and we're all converging in this one movie to contribute to this one vision and adapting ourselves to the style and everything else. And while the process was done in a very unprofessional way, in terms of in a very unprofessional technique, the results were really professional.
Great.
Because they had a guy, an editor there, who was putting it all together every 3 days. He would come in and just take all the work we had done and put it into the system and come out with an animatic that was perfectly timed, matching the sound they had. And they had actors already voiced over that were no longer even alive, like Ernest Borgnine. And gave his last performance in that movie. And it finally got to the point where something had to change. And the first change was they're going to make it into a musical. And I'm going, what? But he found this guy, Tom Hignite, the producer, found a duo of composers in, of all places, Nashville, who could do Disney quality music for this production, and they did. I couldn't believe how good the songs were, and they're from Nashville. But
sounds like a fascinating project.
It is a fascinating project. This guy has the luck of the Irish or something, because he keeps changing the project. The next thing he had to do was he wanted to do a 3D project and expand on that. So all the voice tracks that he had made with these actors that they're no longer cheap. They've gone either dead or they become very expensive, and he would have to record all new voices all over again. He didn't care. It was all about doing it a certain way and getting it to look just right. And that's what he's doing. He's still doing it. And that started in 2013. So this is a hobby. And he's kind of insane about how he does things. But he's got a pure vision about what he wants. And he won't step down. He wants it. And so I'm happy to work for him because he knows what he's doing. It's crazy, but he knows what he's doing.
Nice.
Those are the best experiences,
aren't they?
Go, Joe.
Speaking of work, I've been trying to find that animation you mentioned, but I did find this from the Startoons office. Does this look familiar there, Doug?
Yes, it does. It's my area. All the things on the wall on the left are my storyboards for an idea I had for a series called The Poe Zone. It was going to be an adaptation of the poems and stories of Edgar Allan Poe in a half-hour format, with each segment being done by a different animator.
Oh, I would have watched the hell out of that.
Yeah.
And the story was framed by by a big haunted house called the Poe Zone, and the host was, of course, Fast Eddie Poe.
Very cool.
So, we had just gotten the green light on that project, and there was a studio in India who was painting the backgrounds that I had designed. When they got the word about Warner Brothers kicking us out, and that kind of ended everything.
Yeah, that would. So
the reason we went to the Poe Zone. The reason we went with the Poe Zone.
No. Keep going.
Everything that Edgar Allan Poe has ever written is in public domain.
Yes.
So the idea is still viable for anybody who wants it.
No, especially if we try taking it now, we're just going to feel guilty. It's like, man, I ripped off Doug Rice. He's such a nice guy. Like,
no, I actually ripped off UPA. I ripped off UPA, which is a studio from the late 40s and 50s. They had done an animated short in, I think, 52, featuring James Mason narrating, called The Telltale Heart. And that gave me the idea for the whole thing.
All right. So I don't feel so bad now. Plagiarize away. Got it. I did.
You're going to plagiarize the best.
Yep. We'll make sure we give you credit in the credits, because that's what we do now.
There you go.
I did. Through your career, you've been to, I'm assuming, events, probably a couple of conventions and stuff. Did you ever have any like really notable like celebrity moments, or just something that you was like, wow, this is really happening? Like, I'm meeting this person, or especially if it's one of those where you meet like a hero, like, oh, I love your work, and you're just like, I'm sorry, what?
Well, I have a good one and a bad one.
Let's hear them both.
I got to meet Jack Kirby at a convention. Got to shake his hand, and wow, he was really so good. And you could say anything to him, and he would know immediately what you're talking about. He was so sharp, it was crazy. But it was a magic moment for me to actually shake the hand that drew all that greatness. And the other one was a convention where Jim Steranko was at. It was another champion of champions for me. I love this guy. And I have been working for Marvel for a while on their humor book, What the? Both as a writer and an artist. And Hillary Bard and I have taken an issue of What the, and we were doing a parody of the old Strange Tales, where you would have a story by one artist doing Nick Fury, and then you have another artist doing Steve Ditko, Doctor Strange. And Hillary did the Doctor Strange story, which I helped co-write, and I did a perfectly solo book, all story by myself, of Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., done in the old style, by the old Steranko style. And I also wrote it in the Steranko style. And it remains the finest thing I've ever done. It was What the number 19. And I was, the book was already out. It had been out for a little while, and I was so excited to meet Jim Steranko and have him know that I had done that tribute. It was a spoof, of course. It was a tribute to him, and the impact.
It was an homage.
Yeah, he didn't respond. He had nothing to say about it.
That's a bummer.
He didn't like
it. That sounds like I can attest. I can attest, Mr. Rice. I've met him twice, and both times, like it's nice to have met you, but I was one of those where I feel like if I'm not a beautiful woman, you don't give a shit. So.
Well, that leaves me out.
But No, and I've heard his stories. He slapped Bob Kane in the face, and all this big stuff. And it was just one of those. I was like, thank you for everything you've done for comics. Especially Nick Fury. But it was just one of those, like, you kind of like, who do you think? Do you think you're somehow bigger than you are? Because it's one of those you want to give respect, but at the same time, being a jerk.
Even though I had a bad experience, you have to separate the artist from the work. I love the work. I will always love it. Yeah. And if I can't get into the personal realm because of one thing or another, it doesn't break my heart. I've got what I want. What really mattered to me was the art.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely going to need to check that out. I'm just saying, I've met him, and I've had a lukewarm reaction there. Like, still glad I met him. Still glad I have this autograph. But, I was like, yeah, I've done that. Moving on. But the Kirby story, oh my God, that is one of the coolest things. I remember, what was it? Like the first San Diego Comic-Con, he was like the big guest. And I think that was like 1975 San Diego. He was like the big star. It was like, I think him and Leonard Nimoy were the two biggies. And I was like, man, what I would give to go back to that con and meet both of them. Just, oh my God. I'd probably Van Gogh myself right now just to go back.
There was one other person that really made a difference in terms of meeting him at a convention. This was a great convention in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And the guest I met and talked to was none other than Buster Larry Crabb. Flash Gordon, the original Flash Gordon.
Wow.
And he, on the panel discussion he led, he was in such fantastic condition.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, solid. That guy had a handshake of iron. And he was so cool and such a gentleman. I will always love the fact that I was able to meet that particular person.
Big action star of his day.
Yeah, and got his autograph.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, you had to. I will say this though, just bringing it kind of back to Pinky in the Brain. I've met, like I said, Maurice and Paul and Rob Paulson, and one of the best things I remember Maurice talking about was he said that he loves when people bring up Pinky in the Brain and saying that was their childhood. He said he loves hearing that, and he likes to respond saying thank you for my middle age, because it just brings him such joy that people again who grew up watching it are now, a lot of them are parents, and they're introducing their kids to it, and of course it's still hilarious to this day. The stuff. Have you had any moments like that? When you meet people who, they gush about how great it is and how much that they loved it. Like, have you had moments like that as well when people you've
more than you would believe, more than I could believe, because the fans of whether it's Dynamo Joe or the Manhunter I designed, or the Pinky in the Brain, as you say. Yes, whenever I was at a convention, they were there in droves, and they were very, very effusive about their fandom and appreciative of everything that I had done. I had to remind them, I'm not the only person who did this. I was part of a team. But I was happy to do my bit, and I feel that way is something very important for any artist to get that kind of feedback.
I think he might be getting a call.
Yeah, I think you're getting a call, sir. Yeah.
Right, we got technical troubles on the case.
Okay, no, we fixed it. Charles is phone.
Okay, cool.
We can hear you just fine.
I did meet the actor who played Wacko.
Okay.
At a convention in Salt Lake City a couple of years ago, and he was terrific. Jess
Harnell. He's Jess Harnell. He's hilarious.
Oh yeah.
He was incredible outgoing person, and the girlfriend with him is like, "Hello, nurse."
Yeah.
And she was very intense.
They do table reads at conventions, which is, and they do a podcast as well. I can't remember the name of it, but it's absolutely friggin' hilarious. And,
bet.
Oh yeah,
They do them as all the different characters.
Yeah,
I've seen videos on YouTube of them working on some of the conventions circuit, and
oh my God.
it's one of the reasons that I felt there would be a return eventually, because they were trying too hard to maintain contact and to keep their gig going. And sure enough,
Oh yeah,
they're back to work.
Right.
yeah.
Hey, Doug, I was wondering in getting to know. I'm sorry, Drew. I apologize.
Go ahead.
Doug, are you a family man?
No. I was piggybacking on that. If you ever get a chance, Rice, to see any of them do their tabletops, they're great.
Well, no, I'm not a family man. I'm a bachelor, eligible. But I've been married to my work mostly.
Okay. And you never had children, Doug?
Nope.
Okay.
No dependents.
Confirmed bachelor.
I've got brothers and sisters who have nephews and nieces and things like that, so I'm good.
Right. So you get to enjoy them, still travel, and you don't have to do any dirty diapers.
Right. I don't travel so much. I've been in lockdown for a year and a half.
Okay.
Like a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Because I was at risk in terms of, I had a heart problem back in the 2017. I had an open heart surgery for that. It came through, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's healing from that is an ongoing thing.
We're glad you're here and that you're healthy now.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it's great that you've been doing remote teaching, obviously, for the past year.
Last year and a half, yeah. But I'm just tomorrow. I start classes in person.
Oh wow!
And I'm looking forward to it. I can tell you right now that there is a new generation of students out there who love 2D animation and are very much into it. So the cartoons of tomorrow are going to be great.
Thank God.
Beautiful to hear.
Very, very talented. Very, very good.
The future got 2% brighter.
Well, and it's great to hear that, your talent is leading the future generation that is going to bring us some, amazing work,
Well, they are very talented, and I'm giving them stuff they wouldn't get most anywhere else, because Columbia hires people who have worked in the trenches, and that includes animation. So everybody in the animation department has worked for a major studio and has come away not only with the experience, but also with some accolades, like my Emmy Award.
There you go.
That's awesome.
We are good teachers.
Well, hey, listen, I've worked in the classroom, and I've worked with some great teachers. I've worked with some mediocre ones, and I've worked with Why Are You Here's. And the best sign of the best teacher is ones that push you to greatness, even if you don't notice it. When you realize it in the end, you got to give that credit where credit's due. So, keep doing what you're doing, because it's working.
I keep telling myself that I'm teaching a class in animation, and so consequently, how hard can it be to show cartoons all day and discuss them?
Listen, you get paid for something we do for free. So, that's the dream.
It's not living right.
So, there you go.
We'll get there one day, Doug.
Okay, well, I'm counting on
one day.
All right, awesome. And Doug, is there any current animation out that you're a super fan of?
I've got a pile of DVDs, screeners, which I'm still trying to watch, which will have more recent titles in them, which I haven't seen yet. But you want to go back a couple of years, there was a thing called Redline. Have you ever seen that? Anyway, Redline was a major anime feature film.
Okay.
It has no socially redeeming value whatsoever. It's very much like, what if you took Penelope Pitstop and the Wacky Races and you put it in a Star Wars universe and had it directed by Robert Rodriguez?
Nice.
It's very,
sounds crazy.
You put the headphones on, crank up the sound, kick your feet back, grab the popcorn, and start watching it. Because it is incredible.
Sold.
Beautiful animation, 2D animation, beautiful ideas, and great pacing, and fantastic music score, everything. It's just insanely good.
All right, gonna definitely have to check that out.
Speaking of Star Wars, if you get a chance to check it out, Disney released I forgot what it was called. All the animated shorts.
Yes, I've got that on a screener here. I have to get to
it. Leo, come on, man. He's already on the game.
That's one of the benefits of being in the industry, is that you get screener copies of whatever you want.
Oh,
nice.
Did you ever have a chance to check out the new Animaniacs? Came out a couple of years ago?
I watched the first season right away, and I like this first season. I like the fact that it's by the same writers and features the same voice actors. I like the altered designs are okay. I only have a complaint, if I have a complaint, is that the person who designs the incidental new characters, the new characters that I've never human characters especially, who are featured, have a very angular, sharp-edged design to them, which doesn't fit the squash and stretch design of the other characters from the original series. And I'm wondering why they have one person doing all this instead of a team. Because it just doesn't look. That's my only observation, is that I find that the sharper edge characters of the new ones have a hard time assimilating with that world.
Yeah, definitely the animation had a different feel for it. Last question I have for you is, you mentioned growing up with Bugs Bunny. Have you seen the new Bugs Bunny that came out a couple of years ago? They tried to reboot it on HBO.
Is it with Looney Tunes?
Yeah.
I found that interesting. I thought the design alterations worked as far as the show is concerned, and it had enough references, Easter eggs from from the previous legacy that they had, that it made the show interesting. And some of the humor was different, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely not as raw, though.
It couldn't possibly be. It couldn't possibly be.
No.
The disinterest that you had in Hollywood for the product of a 6-minute cartoon or 8-minute cartoon featurette before a movie was monumental. They just didn't care. So consequently, the animators could get away with it wherever they wanted.
Right.
The bosses just didn't care.
Okay. Now, I know we ran over on time. Did you guys have any other questions before we wrap it up?
No, I'm good. I'm satisfied. This has been great.
Awesome. Thank you again for your time, Doug.
Okay, one last thing.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please go to Jim.
Working with Charles in projects too involving comic books. First is a thing called Thunderworld, which is a series of books, titles that are being developed that will involve a universe using giant robots and giant kaiju monsters.
Oh,
cool. And I'm writing that and helping design it, and that'll be something that we're doing, just to have a book that will have enough action and craziness in it to get that market going.
Okay.
And the other thing is that I've just recently announced the revival, reprinting a digital version of Dynamo Joe with new material. And there will be, if that sells The series will be continued.
Awesome.
So,
Very cool.
that's it. I'm all good.
Beautiful.
Well, we'll definitely
let us know when it's out.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Doug, one last question. Will you ever retire, Doug, or you're just, as long as you can do it, you're going to keep doing it?
Well, even when I retire, I'll do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to just fly around all day.
That's the goal.
If I have energy, I'll do it. And right now I've got plenty of energy. I'm teaching 2 days a week, two classes in 1 day tomorrow, which means I have 6 days of goofing off.
Right.
So I'm going to be working on.
You got to fill it somehow.
Yeah. So I have things to do to keep me busy.
All right.
That's awesome. That's how you stay young, you know.
Yeah. And if we find any ladies, we're going to send them your way, Doug.
Oh, please.
Hey.
Please make them my generation. I cannot deal with young women.
He doesn't want an 18-year-old.
Yeah. We'll make sure that she's 42, Doug. 42.
Back on 40 years. Got it.
Try at least 55 and up. I really do prefer older women.
You got it. Well, my mom's in Pennsylvania. I can send her out there.
They have a quality I admire.
Yeah. You like old Jewish ladies? She makes reservations like nobody's business.
They can be whatever.
Rich, the guy likes his gilfs. Okay, it's all good. If we find any, we'll be like, hey, we know a guy in Chicago. He will animate your life. It'll be wonderful.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
I'll have to remember that one.
I love it. We ended the show with Rich trying to set up his mom.
Yeah, absolutely. Set her up with a legend. She was like, "What did he draw? Did he draw what?"
Well, we'll have to make sure next week we'll try to take over the world. So same time, same place. That's the only Pinky the Brain reference I'm making. That's all I'm saying. I'm done. I'm good. I'm fine. That's the end of the episode. Well, so thank you so much, Doug, for coming. It's been great, and good luck with everything you're doing, classes, all your projects, and whatnot. And we'll definitely keep an eye out. And once, like I said, things are released, we'll definitely make sure to give you a shout out because all publicity is good publicity.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, definitely hit us up when you're coming out with a Dynamo Joe when that's ready to hit the streets. We'd love to talk it up. And also we didn't mention, and please forgive me for not mentioning this, but also thank you for your service.
You're welcome. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
And we'll also spread the word out about this book, so maybe you can get that nice resurgence and whatnot, because Plastic Man all the way.
Yeah, we got to push the hell out of this Plastic Man.
Yeah. Frankly, I would like to see the issues assembled into a trade paperback.
Yes.
I mean, there are only 4 issues, but still, it deserves something.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yeah.
DC, or if you're listening to us, let's get on this. We have enough Batman. Give us a little plastic in our life. That's not MasterCard. Thank you. God, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm good.
Nice.
I'm good. I said.
Well, I want to thank everybody for watching this fine evening. Definitely check the show notes up above or down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us, to learn more about tonight's episode and our awesome guest. Doug, where do you like people interacting with you on social media?
I'm available on Facebook. That's kind of a gateway. But I have a email address also. I take emails from various people who want to talk to me. I'm not stingy about that.
Sweet.
Can we type it, or?
I mean, that's so nice.
I'll send it to them.
Okay, we'll send you the email.
Yeah, you can just say it.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
derstudio@hotmail.com. That's DERSCHTUDIO@hotmail.com.
All right.
Awesome.
All right.
Drew.
Already looking him up. I'm sorry. I'm already looking him up on Facebook. Hi, everyone. I'm Drew. If you're watching this show, you've already heard me say this a million times. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Ghostbuster Man 1984. I do a lot of stuff with Screen Rant. I got a lot of articles that are coming up, so keep an eye on that. I do a lot of stuff here. I'm everywhere. I'm very busy, but I swear to God, it's not you, it's me. If you reach out, I will get back to you probably sometime soon.
Velvet Joker.
All right. Well, you can always catch me every Tuesday here on the award-winning Splash Pages, a comic book club podcast.
Hey.
And let's see, you can find me at Facebook as Rich Davis. You can find me on Instagram, Ghostbuster Man 1984. And finally, I might be working on a secret project with Leo that a bunch of the Dorkening guys were pretty excited about when I mentioned it. So stay tuned.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. And for me, just Google Leo Pond. You'll find a bunch of stuff. Could be true, could be not. But more importantly, follow these awesome people. Definitely, you have to go to Instagram, Ghostbuster Man 1984. It's
the place to be.
Suck.
Yeah, it is.
You both suck.
I run a little thing called the Dorkening Podcast Network. We got about 40 shows on the network. There's so many awesome people doing so many awesome things. And we also launched Dead Dork Radio, which actually you could be listening to right now because we're streaming live to Dead Dork Radio.
Nice.
And, with that, we'll catch you guys there. Bye.
Peace out.